In this video, we're going to look at a few examples from mini lesson 4. So first we're going to start with multiplying fractions and mixed numbers on the calculator. So we're not going to do all of these problems, but these were done on the mini lesson video by hand, so you can practice them on your calculator and check your work. So I am going to do, how about C, E, and F. So notice C is the multiplication of two mixed numbers. So I'm going to start by hitting the second button and this button to get the mixed number format. And we have 2 1/5. Now use the arrow to move outside the mixed number. Enter the multiplication sign. And now put in the second mixed number, 3 1/9. I'm going to hit enter. And notice it gave me the improper fraction answer. So I'm going to write that. 308 over 45. Notice the directions say write your answer as both an improper fraction and a mixed number when applicable. So since this is improper, I can change it to a mixed number. And in general, when you start with mixed numbers, your final answer should be a mixed number. So it's good to do that in general. Now remember, I don't have to re-enter this. I could just use the change to a mixed number button by hitting second and this button, and it just takes my previous answer. And we get the result of 6 38/45. So let's write that here. Oh, that's a highlighter. 6 38/45. Now let's look at letter E. So E has 3 fractions, but it's really not going to be any different. You just need to use the fraction button. Enter your fractions, 1/3. Make sure to put the proper operations in between each fraction. So times 2/3 times 3/4. I'm going to hit enter, and the result is 1/6. So since that's a proper fraction, since 1 is less than 6, I don't need to rewrite it as a mixed number. Now the last one has both fractions and mixed numbers, but that's not a problem. We're just going to start with the first one as a fraction. Oop. It says I hit it, but I don't see it. 1/4 times, now I'm going to use the second and this button to put in the mixed number, 3 2/3 times 3/5. That's everything I need, so I'm going to hit enter, and we get 11/20. And since 11 is less than 20, this is a proper fraction, and I don't need to rewrite it as a mixed number. Let's look at the next slide. So now we have dividing fractions or whole numbers and fractions. So let's just look at, how about letter E and letter D. And again, you learned all of these in your mini lesson video. It was a video because of the star, so you can double check your work by practicing these. So let's start with this one. So we're going to start with a mixed number. We have 3 1/2. I'm going to move over. Now we have a division symbol, and then we will divide by another mixed number. So 5 3/8. hit enter, and this is a simplified fraction. Notice the numerator is less than the denominator, so it's a proper fraction, and I don't need to rewrite it as a mixed number. Now this one probably seems odd. It's just 3 divided by 2. So we're dividing two whole numbers, but 3 isn't divisible by 2, meaning that you won't get a whole number answer. So we can just write 3 divided by 2, and notice it gave me a decimal because I didn't start out writing these as fractions. Well, you can always go to my favorite button right here. Whenever you get a decimal and you want a fraction, or you get a fraction and you want a decimal, just hit this button and it will rewrite it in the other form. So 3 divided by 2 as a fraction, an improper fraction, is 3/2. And that makes sense because one way to think of fractions is division, dividing 3 by 2. Now to write it as a mixed number, I am going, since 3 is greater than 2, I can write it as a mixed number. I'm going to use this button, second, and this button, and we get 1 1/2. So 3/2, and the equivalent mixed number is 1 1/2. Now just a few more examples with order of operations. Remember, don't be intimidated by these. You just need to punch them in as you see them. They're more difficult to do by hand, but if you take your time, they're no problem on the calculator. So I'm going to do each of these because they all look a little bit different. First, starting with 3/4 raised to the 3rd power. Well, notice that 3/4 is in parentheses. We want 3 factors of 3/4. So I need to start with parentheses and then enter my fraction. Now I'm going to close the parentheses. And remember, if you have an exponent besides 2, for 2 you can just hit this button. But if it's a number besides 2, you can hit the caret. It raises it up here, and you just type in your exponent. And now we can hit enter. And this is our result, 27/64. It will be simplified already for us. And since the numerator is less than the denominator, we don't need to write it as a mixed number. Now here we have an exponent, and remember, when parentheses are next to another number, this fraction 3/5 is a number. That means multiplication. So if we were to do this by hand, first we'd square it, then we'd multiply by 3/5. However, for the calculator, we'll just punch it in just like we see it. So 3/5, open parentheses, and I'm going to hit the fraction button, 2/3, close the parentheses. Oops, I'm glad I did that. Notice I put that parenthesis there by accident because I didn't arrow. So I'm going to hit the arrow over, and now I hit delete. And now it will take away that parenthesis C's in the wrong place. Now I'll hit the arrow, now it's outside. Close the parentheses, and that needs to be squared. So I'm going to use this easier button, the squared button. Hitting enter, we have 4/15, which is a proper fraction, so I don't need to simplify. I'm going to clear this out. Now for this problem, we have addition and division. If we were doing this by hand, we do the division first and the addition. For the calculator, we just punch it in as we see it. Oops, but that's not how we saw it. Let's go back. I'm going to delete that 2. That was supposed to be 3/4 plus another fraction, 4/5 divided by another fraction, 2/3. Now I'll hit enter, and we have 39/20. Now since 39 is greater than 20, we can write this as a mixed number. So now I'm going to hit second and this button right here, and it will take my previous answer and change it to a mixed number. So this is equal to or equivalent to 1 and 19 over 20. And now this last one, this one looks like a bear. We have exponents, division, parentheses, subtraction, addition. A lot going on here. Just punch it in just like you see it. So parentheses, 2 minus 1/3, close the parentheses, divided by, now we have new parentheses, 1/4 plus 1/6. And now that seems to check. I'll hit enter. Oh, and it was 4. Like we didn't know that from the beginning. Just kidding. So this expression is equivalent to 4. 4 is a whole number, so we don't write it as a mixed number or an improper fraction. This is our final result. Again, try to practice these all on your own. Remember, you can rewind the video if you miss something and pause it.